I still remember the way the gravel crunched under my shoes as I ran after the truck. Dust in my mouth, sun beating down on my back, my voice cracking in the heat. Dylan, stop, Dylan. They didn't stop. They just laughed. Both of them, Dylan and his cousin Zach, hanging out the windows, filming me like I was part of some sick comedy sketch. Zach was shouting, "Don't worry, Nat, it's just a prank for the channel. Say hi to the camera," and then they were gone. Just like that. The engine roared, the taillights disappeared into the shimmer of the highway. And I was alone. No wallet, no water, my phone. Dead. Of course. I had only run inside the gas station to get Dylan an energy drink. He said he was tired and asked me sweetly to grab it for him. That smile, that fake little smirk he always used when he wanted something. I didn't even think twice. And now, here I was, stranded, in the Mojave Desert. One pump, one busted vending machine, and the kind of silence that only exists when nobody's coming for you. I waited. At first, I thought they'd loop back. 5 minutes, 10, then 20. Still nothing. I sat on the curb, sweat dripping down my back, heart pounding like a war drum. The gas station attendant. He looked at me like I was crazy, said, "They'll be back, I guess." But I knew. I think I knew the second the tires spun out that this wasn't just a dumb prank. This was something else, something meaner. My phone buzzed right before it died completely. "Chill, babe, we'll come back. Content is king." That's what Dylan wrote. That was his idea of love. That was the moment something inside me cracked. Not like a clean break. More like a hairline fracture that had been there for years, finally giving way. I looked out at the road. Endless. Empty. Hot enough to melt your brain. And I asked myself, what if they don't come back? What if they never planned to, and worse? What if I already knew that? Then a truck pulled in, an old semi. Driver stepped out, looked at me concerned. "You okay?" he asked. "I can call someone for you." And you know what, I almost said yes. But something in me said no. I wasn't going to give Dylan the satisfaction of watching me crawl back into his narrative. This wasn't going to be another hilarious moment for his cousin's YouTube reel. So I stood up, wiped the dust from my hands. And I lied to the driver. "Yeah, I'm fine," but I wasn't. Not even close. And that was the moment I decided to disappear. I walked. Not because I had a plan, but because standing still felt like giving up. Every step away from that gas station was a step towards something anything other than what I had just left behind. About a mile down the road, blistered and dizzy, I heard the slow hum of a car engine behind me. An old station wagon pulled up. A couple inside, late 40s, maybe sun-worn faces and kind eyes. The woman leaned out the window. "You okay, sweetheart?" I paused. For a second, I didn't know if I should lie again, but this time my voice cracked. "I just need to get to the next town." She nodded. "Hop in. We're headed that way." They didn't ask too many questions, which was exactly what I needed. I sat in the back seat next to a basket of laundry and a half-eaten sandwich. It felt safe. In a weird way, they dropped me off at the edge of a dusty little town with one diner, one post office, and thank God, one library. I stepped inside the library like it was a church. Air conditioning humming like heaven, the faint smell of old paper and peace. I walked up to the front desk and asked if I could use the computer. "No card?" the librarian asked. I shook my head. She looked me up and down, then handed me a sticky note with a login. 15 minutes, take what you need. I sat down, fingers trembling, and opened the browser. No social media, no emails, no headlines. Just one thought, Grandma Jo. We hadn't spoken in 10 years, not since the falling out after my mom passed, but she was the only person in the world I still believed might care. I found her number on an old message thread and typed out something simple. "Hey, it's Natalie. I don't know where else to go. "Can I come stay with you for a while?" I stared at the blinking cursor. And then her reply popped up faster than I could process it. "If you're ready to come home, I've been ready for a long time." I read that line 5 times. Then I cried, quietly, ugly, right there in the middle of a public library. Not because I was sad, but because for the first time in forever, someone actually meant it when they said, "Come home." I wiped my face and stood up ready to figure out how to get there. But I didn't even have enough money for lunch, let alone a bus ticket across the state. That's when a hand tapped my shoulder. It was the same librarian. "I packed a lunch today," she said, holding out a brown paper bag. "But I'm not hungry. You take it. Inside a sandwich, a water bottle, and something else I hadn't expected. A crumpled $20 bill folded into the napkin. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough. Enough to get me to the bus depot 2 towns over. Enough to get me started. And then right there in that moment, I remembered something. A little breadcrumb I'd been laying down for years, without realizing it. Back when things with Dylan started feeling off, I had quietly opened a savings account. Nothing big, nothing fancy. Just a backup. I used my mom's maiden name. Dylan never noticed. He was always too busy chasing the next adrenaline hit with Zach. Every time I got groceries and came in under budget, I'd move $10 over. Every time I got birthday cash or holiday tips, I'd stash a little away. It was the one thing in that relationship that belonged completely to me. And now, it was going to be my exit route. I took the librarian's lunch, thanked her, with every ounce of breath I had left. Then I walked to that tiny bus stop at the edge of town, bought the cheapest one-way ticket I could find, and sat down on a bench that smelled like diesel fuel and old dreams. I looked out at the horizon. Nothing ahead, nothing behind. But in that stillness, something shifted inside me. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting on anyone. I was moving, and I was moving forward. The bus ride took nearly 9 hours. And the whole way there, I didn't say a word. I stared out the window as desert turned to scrub, and scrub gave way to pine trees and rolling fog. By the time we pulled into the station, the ocean was close enough I could smell it. Salt. Rain. Something like peace. And there she was, Grandma Jo, standing next to her old blue truck like she hadn't aged a day. Her hair was grayer, her frame smaller, but her eyes just the same. I stepped off the bus and barely got 2 feet before she pulled me in. No lecture. No questions. Just arms around me like a net catching someone who had been falling for way too long. "Let's get you home," she whispered. And just like that, I was no longer lost. Her house sat on a quiet street just blocks from the water. White shutters, flower beds, a wind chime that danced every time the breeze rolled through. She made me tea, let me shower. And when I came downstairs, she was already folding laundry like no time had passed. That night, I sat on the edge of the guest bed and looked at myself in the mirror, and I didn't recognize the woman staring back. So I decided right then she needed a name. Not the one Dylan used, not the one Zach mocked in his videos, but one that belonged to someone stronger, someone free. So I became Natalie Lane, my mother's maiden name. Simple, honest, mine. The next day, Grandma Jo drove me to the marina. There was a small cafe right by the docks, the kind with wobbly chairs, faded menus, and seagulls that begged for fries. They were hiring. I filled out the application using my new name and smiled for the first time in what felt like months when the owner, Miss Angie, handed me an apron and said, "Let's see how you do on lunch shift." Turns out I was good at it. Taking orders, pouring coffee, making small talk with boat captains and crab fishermen who tipped in cash and sea stories. I wasn't invisible anymore, but I wasn't exposed either, just a part of something. And then one afternoon, he came in, Leo. He sat at the corner booth, ordered black coffee, and didn't say much. Didn't scroll on his phone, didn't ask for Wi-Fi, just sat there quiet and present. He left a $10 tip on a $2 drink. Next day he came back, same seat, same coffee, same silence. And for some reason, it felt comforting. He never asked me where I was from, never pushed for small talk. He just looked at me like I wasn't broken, like I was whole even if I didn't feel it yet. Weeks passed, and slowly we got into a rhythm. He'd nod when I brought his coffee. I'd smile when he left his tip under the edge of the plate. One evening, after a late shift, I found him waiting outside. He asked if I wanted company walking home. It was getting dark, the tide was high, and for some reason, I said yes. We walked quietly, past the boardwalk through the trees down the street where Grandma Joe's house stood like a postcard from another life. But as we got closer, something felt off. My front gate was open. That wasn't right. I looked over at the trash cans. One of them was knocked over. Garbage spilled all over the driveway. Leo saw it too. I hurried to the porch. The screen door was closed, but the back door, it was cracked open. Just barely, but enough. I stopped breathing. Leo stepped in front of me without a word, his jaw-tight eyes scanning every shadow. He motioned for me to stay back, then pushed the door open slowly. My heart was thudding so loud I could barely hear the creak of the hinges. Nothing looked taken, nothing shattered, but something was wrong. Something was off. Leo turned back toward me. "Stay here," he said, but my feet were frozen. For a moment, all I could think was someone had been here. Not a raccoon, not a storm, someone, and they'd been looking for something. Or someone. Me. Leo didn't ask me what I thought had happened that night. He didn't question whether I left the door cracked myself or if maybe a raccoon tipped over the trash. He just nodded, said we'll tighten things up, and showed up the next morning with motion lights, a small security camera, and a brand new deadbolt still in the package. He moved like someone who'd done this before. Measured, careful, quiet. When I offered to help, he just said, "You've got enough on your shoulders," and went back to work. By noon, the back porch was lit up like a runway, and the new locks clicked into place like armor sliding over a wound. After everything was done, we sat on Grandma Joe's steps sipping sweet tea from mismatched mugs. The silence between us wasn't awkward. It was easy, like we'd both been living in noise for too long and finally found a moment of quiet we didn't have to explain. I don't know how long we sat like that before he finally spoke. "I used to be an EMT," he said, eyes fixed on the horizon. I looked over at him, surprised, but didn't say anything. I could tell this wasn't the kind of story you rushed. He took a slow breath. "Last call I ever went on was my sister." My heart sank. She OD'd. We didn't even know she was using. She was 16. My mom found her, called 911. Dispatch sent me and my partner because we were the closest unit. He paused, jaw tight, eyes glassy. I tried everything. CPR, Narcan, chest compressions. I knew it was too late, but I kept going because stopping would have made it real. He went quiet again. I didn't try to comfort him. Didn't say I'm sorry or reach for his hand. I just sat there with him, let the silence carry the weight. That's what grief needs sometimes. Space, stillness, witness. He nodded like he could hear my thoughts. After that, I couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't walk into strangers' homes not knowing what I was about to see. So I left the city. Came here. That's when I realized he wasn't just hiding. He was healing. Or at least trying to. And maybe so was I. That night, I laid in bed and stared at the ceiling fan spinning above me. I thought about how quiet Leo was, how careful. And I thought about Dylan and how loud he always had to be. Everything with him was a show, a bit, a setup. It didn't start out cruel. At first, it was little things. Putting food dye in my toothpaste, hiding my shoes before a brunch with his parents. "Lighten up," he'd say, laughing when I got frustrated. "You're so sensitive. It's just a joke." But over time, the jokes got sharper, meaner. One day, he replaced my birth control pills with mints just to see if I'd notice. Another time, he convinced his friends to pretend we were evicted. Watched me spiral for an hour before admitting it was fake. And the worst part? I stayed. Because every time I tried to draw a line, he'd say I was overreacting. He'd kiss my forehead and promise to tone it down, then laugh behind my back with Zach and do it again next weekend. It wasn't just the pranks, it was the gaslighting. The way he twisted everything into something I was doing wrong. The way he'd tell me to relax while he chipped away at every part of me that once felt strong. And I let it happen, because I didn't want to be the uptight girlfriend who couldn't take a joke. But I wasn't laughing. I hadn't laughed in years. And then, one day I looked at Zach's YouTube channel just out of curiosity. And I saw it. The video, the one from the gas station. Blurry footage of me shouting Dylan's name running after the truck, confused and alone. They posted it. They actually posted it. Title, "We left my girlfriend in the desert." Her reaction was wild. 500,000 views in 3 days. The comments were a mess. Half the people thought it was fake. The other half called me crazy, overly dramatic, a buzzkill. And every reply from Zach was a laughing emoji. That video, it was the beginning of their rise. Their channel exploded after that. Brand deals, a merch line, podcast interviews where they laughed about how unhinged I was. They called it their most iconic prank. Meanwhile, I was just trying to forget I ever existed in their world. That was the night I knew this wasn't just about trauma, it was about legacy. They were building theirs off of my pain, and for the first time in a long, long time, I started to wonder if I'd ever stop running. I should have known peace doesn't last. It was a Tuesday. I had just finished the lunch shift apron slung over my shoulder, hands sore from carrying trays and smiling through too many fake, "How's your day going?" conversations. I stepped out the back door of the cafe, squinting against the afternoon sun, and then I heard it. That voice, loud, grinning, too familiar. There she is, the desert diva herself. I froze. Then I turned. Zach, phone in one hand, camera crew trailing behind him like flies on garbage. He had sunglasses on, hair slicked back, wearing a t-shirt with his own face on it. He was filming, right there in the parking lot, like I was some kind of punchline he'd found again after losing the script. "Come on, Natalie," he laughed. "Tell the fans what it was like being left in the Mojave. You still mad about it?" People turned. Customers, co-workers, tourists waiting for table 9. Some laughed. Some just stared. I didn't say a word. I didn't even blink. I just ran. My legs moved before my brain could catch up. Through the alley, past the pier, all the way to the dock behind the cafe where the boats rocked gently in the harbor. And that's where Leo found me. Sitting on the edge of the dock, knees pulled to my chest, shaking. I hadn't cried, not yet. I just sat there, like my body had shut down, like the panic had pulled the plug and everything inside me was flickering. He didn't say anything at first. He just sat next to me, not touching, not talking, just there. And for the first time since I left Dylan, I felt it again, that thick, suffocating weight in my chest. The one that whispered, "You'll never outrun them." I don't remember walking home. I barely remember dinner. All I remember is sitting on the bed hours later, staring at the glow of my laptop, feeling like something was crawling under my skin. And then my email pinged. No subject, no sender, just a link. I knew better than to click on random links, but this one felt different. Like a dare, like a message. My hand hovered over the trackpad. Click. It loaded fast. Too fast. And there it was. The video, the original video. Me, on screen, in the desert, screaming Dylan's name, running like I still believed someone might care. 6.2 million views, thousands of comments. This girl's a whole movie. Bet she still cries when someone honks. LMAO, she really thought they were coming back. Each one hit like a slap. Not because they were cruel, but because they were real. People I'd never met thought my breakdown was entertainment. My trauma was trending. And Zach, he was still feeding off it. Still filming, still monetizing the worst day of my life. I closed the laptop, but the video kept playing in my head, over and over. The sand, the sun, the silence. And that moment I realized no one was coming. Except now. They were. But not to help. They were coming to laugh, and I had no idea how far they'd go this time. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Zach's face, heard his voice, felt that same helplessness I thought I'd buried years ago. By morning, the air felt heavier, like something was coming, even if I didn't know what. And then there was a knock at the door. 3 slow taps. I froze. Grandma Jo was out visiting a friend. Leo had gone to grab groceries. I peeked through the front window, and there he was, Dylan. Older, thinner, hair longer eyes, sunken, wearing a hoodie that looked like it hadn't been washed in weeks. He wasn't smiling. No camera, no phone, just him, standing there like a ghost from a past I'd spent years trying to burn down. I opened the door halfway, hand still on the lock. He didn't try to come in, didn't even step forward. "Hey," he said quietly. I didn't respond. He looked down at his shoes, then back up at me. "I've been looking for you." Still, I said nothing. He sighed. "I cut ties with Zach months ago. The video, it ruined everything." I raised an eyebrow but kept my mouth shut. My job, my family, even the few friends I had left. No one wanted to touch me after that clip went viral. Sponsors dropped us. People started showing up to our house. Threats, protests, it all just blew up. "Good," I said flatly. He winced, like he thought maybe this would go differently. "I didn't know Zach was going to post it," he mumbled. "I thought it was just for us. For laughs." "For laughs," I said, finally stepping outside. "You left me in the desert for laughs." He looked like he wanted to say something back, some excuse, some half-baked apology, but the words never came. Instead, he just stared at me like he didn't recognize who I'd become. And that's when Leo walked up, grocery bag in one hand, keys in the other. He saw Dylan instantly, didn't ask questions, didn't look surprised. He just stepped up beside me, calm, steady, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Dylan's eyes narrowed. "Who's this?" he asked. I didn't flinch. "He's the man who stayed." That hit him like a punch to the ribs. He opened his mouth and closed it again. "I know, I don't deserve your time," he said finally. "But there's something you should know." I crossed my arms. "Zach's suing me." I blinked. "What, he's suing me for defamation?" Dylan said, rubbing the back of his neck. "He says I damaged his brand when I went public about the things he did off camera, told people he manipulated me, lied about what went on behind the scenes." And I asked. He looked down. "And now he's subpoenaed your name." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean, your name's in the paperwork? He wants you to testify that it was all your idea, that you were in on it, that it was staged." I actually laughed, a cold, bitter laugh that sounded nothing like me. "He's trying to make me the villain." Dylan nodded. "He thinks you'll either vanish again or cave." I didn't speak, because part of me had expected this. But hearing it out loud made it real. Leo's jaw clenched. He didn't say anything, but I could feel the storm rolling behind his eyes. Dylan took a step back. "I'm not here to defend myself," he said. "I just thought you deserved to know before it blindsided you." I stayed quiet. He hesitated, then turned and walked down the steps. But before he reached the sidewalk, he stopped. "You disappeared?" he said, not turning around. And that's when I finally understood what I lost. I didn't reply, because I wasn't sure if it was guilt speaking, or if he just missed the version of me who tolerated him. But either way, he wasn't getting her back. She was gone. And I wasn't. I didn't want to do it. Court meant cameras, questions, headlines. It meant dragging every piece of my pain into the light just so people could decide whether or not it was valid. I told Leo I wasn't sure I could face them. Zach smirking behind some legal team in designer suits. Dylan sitting there like a ghost with a guilty conscience. But Leo looked at me calm, steady, the way he always was, and said, "If you don't speak your truth, they'll keep owning the narrative." And that hit harder than I expected, because that's what this was really about. Control. Zach had twisted my pain into profit. Dylan had turned my trust into a joke. And now, they wanted a courtroom to clean it all up like I was some messy footnote in their viral success story. That night, Grandma Jo came into my room and sat beside me on the bed. She didn't say much, just reached into her closet and pulled out an old garment bag. "This belonged to your mom," she said softly. "She wore it the day she got promoted at the hospital. I think she'd want you to wear it now." I unzipped the bag, and there it was. A navy blue suit, this simple, elegant, strong, just like her. I nodded, tears burning the backs of my eyes, and whispered, "Thank you." The morning of the hearing, the sky was gray, heavy. Reporters lined the courthouse steps, cameras already rolling. Inside the room smelled like wood polish and stale tension. Zach sat at the front, surrounded by lawyers, acting like he was at a movie premiere. He laughed with his team, fixed his hair between glances, like this was just another brand stunt he could spin into content. Dylan was behind him alone, hunched hollow-eyed. He didn't speak. He didn't smile. He just stared at the floor. Then they called my name. I stood, walked slowly to the witness stand. And when I sat down and faced the courtroom, I felt it. The burn, the fear, but also something else. Resolve. I looked at the jury, then at Zach, and I started to speak. Not just about that day in the desert, but everything before it. The pranks that weren't funny. The way Dylan laughed while I cried. How Zach called it content while I called it emotional warfare. I told them about the fake eviction notice they slipped under our door one morning before I left for work. The time they hid my car keys before a job interview, just to see what I'd do. How I started saving money in secret, not because I planned to leave, but because deep down, I knew one day I'd have no other choice. I looked the jury straight in the eye and said, "Everyone thinks it's the gas station prank that broke me." But it wasn't. Not really. My voice wavered for a second, then steadied. It was the moment I realized how little I mattered to them. And for the first time since I stepped inside that courtroom, everything went silent. The verdict came 2 days later. Zach lost. Hard. The jury didn't even need a full hour. Defamation, emotional distress, exploitation. His brand crumbled overnight. Sponsors dropped him like dead weight. His merch line was pulled. His channel demonetized. The podcast he used to brag about deleted. And the fans, they turned fast. Turns out, when the mask slips and people see the cruelty underneath, they don't laugh anymore. They unsubscribe. By the time the dust settled, Zach was trending for all the wrong reasons. Not as the king of viral content, but as the guy who built a platform off humiliating others until one of them finally stood up and said, "Enough." I didn't celebrate. I didn't post about it. I didn't tweet a single thing, because none of this was about revenge. It was about reclaiming the truth, and mine had finally been heard. As I walked out of the courthouse that afternoon, the sun hit different. Warm, honest, like a spotlight I didn't need to shrink away from anymore. And then I saw Dylan. He was standing off to the side, holding something small in his hands. No camera, no audience, just him. He stepped forward, slow and unsure. "I just wanted to say," he started, then stopped himself. He looked at the photo he was holding. I recognized it instantly. It was the two of us, 19, smiling, young and stupid and in love with a version of each other we never really knew. He handed it to me. "I don't expect forgiveness," he said, "but I hope one day, when you think of me, it won't all feel ugly." I looked down at the photo, then back at him. "I don't hate you, Dylan," I said softly, "but I don't belong to you anymore." His shoulders dropped like the weight had finally settled. He nodded just once, and I turned, walked down the courthouse steps, not with anger in my chest, but peace. And there he was, Leo, standing at the bottom of the stairs with 2 coffees in his hands, One for him, one for me. He didn't say anything flashy. No big speech, no dramatic pause. Just, "You okay?" I took the cup from him, smiled. "I am now." 1 year later, everything was different. Not perfect, not shiny and neat like some Instagram version of healing, but real. The cafe, I manage it now. Miss Angie retired and handed me the keys with a smile and a hug. Said, "It's yours, Natalie. Make it better than I ever could." So I did. We painted the walls, replaced the broken stools, added a tip jar that actually says Mental Health Fund, and people love it. And Leo, he started teaching CPR classes at the rec center. Mostly for high schoolers, some new parents, a few old-timers who just want to feel useful again. Watching him teach, watching him give, again, it's like watching someone rebuild themselves from the inside out. He doesn't talk about his sister much, but I can tell he honors her every time he saves someone else. As for me, I started writing. Not under my real name, at least not at first, but I began posting little essays online, stories about recovery, about leaving quietly, about what gaslighting really feels like when you can't even trust your own memory. I didn't expect much. But one post, one story, went viral. Left in the desert, why I never went back. Hundreds of thousands of views. Comments from people saying they'd been there too. People who thought they were crazy until they read those words. That story didn't make me famous, but it made me free. Then a few months later, Grandma Jo passed, peacefully, in her sleep. She left the house to me. The same creaky-floored, lemon-polish-scented home where I found my footing again, where I started breathing without fear. We planted sunflowers out back in her honor, her favorite. Now every morning I make coffee, open the windows, and let the ocean breeze in. And at night when the tide is low and the sky burns gold, Leo and I walk the beach together, barefoot, quiet. Just the sound of waves and wind and our hearts moving forward. One evening, as we watched the sun sink into the horizon, I looked over at him and said, he thought he left me behind. Leo looked at me, eyebrows raised gently. But he just gave me the chance to find myself. He smiled. And we kept walking, side by side, not running from anything, not hiding anymore, just living, free. And if you've made it this far, maybe part of you is walking your own road too. So tell me, what was your moment? The one where you stopped running and started rebuilding? Comment below. We read every single one. And if this story helped you breathe just a little deeper, make sure you're subscribed. We post new stories like this every single day. Because somewhere out there, someone's waiting to hear they're not alone. And maybe that someone is you.